Taped from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
Hey, Darren Patterson, what's going on?
Doing good. I'm doing all right. Enjoying the summers, trying to stay cool. It is super hot outside. I mean, my God.
It is, yeah. It's temperatures up in the 90s. I am trying not to venture outside because, like, when somebody as pale as me ventures outside in weather like this, I do not tan. I just burst into flames. I have no medium state. It is just either I am pale or I am sunburnt.
Yes, Johnny Blaze Trumbull, as they know him out here in the streets.
Okay, sure. Yes,
I was just trying to give you a cool nickname, man. I keep trying to give you cool nicknames, and you keep pushing them away at every turn.
The nicknames, they have to happen organically, Darren.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, when you're like sitting down and like, I'm gonna give you a nickname. Does that ever work? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess not. Like it just.
Yeah.
I guess it just. Something like embarrassing has to happen to you in order to get a nickname or something like that. Or something.
Well, okay. Well, I'm not for that. No.
Oh, you're not. You're not for taking your biggest fault and making it a nickname.
No. I don't think I would care for that. No, I don't want more embarrassing things to happen to me, and I don't want to be reminded of embarrassing things that happen to me every time a friend addresses me. That just seems like a dick move, doesn't it?
Oh man, how come you're no fun? Why are you being a stick in the mud?
Well, I mean, God, this is my brand, right?
Yes. John, stick in the mud, Trumbull. There it is. Bam, we did it. See?
I don't know. Am I that big of a stick in the mud?
Yeah, we'll call you Sticky for short. See?
No, already I don't like this. This is I do not care for this, sir.
John Sticky Trumbull. Boom, we did it.
No,
you're welcome, America.
Okay, all right. I should be able to exercise veto power over any nicknames I receive. Like, I have a few friends who will call me JT, and I kind of like that. That sounds cool.
Sounds pretty slick.
That sounds pretty slick. Some people like to just call me Trumbull, which I'm like, okay, is that just because you like saying my last name, or are you just being rude? I don't know. I never know how to read that.
You do have one of those cool last names that does lend itself to people just calling you by your last name.
It is a fun name to say, and I get that. And I don't mind it as much as I used to. I'm more used to that. But John is fine. It's one syllable. It's easy.
I don't.
Have you had any nicknames, Darren?
Have I? I think I had a couple. I remember people called me Chachi for a little bit. That was like
okay. What's the story behind that? What the hell?
All right. Well, I think the story behind that is, what was it? Oh, right, yes. Because, like, when I used to write for the college newspaper,
okay,
like, me and my buddies wanted to do it. So, like, for some reason, I thought it'd be just cute or clever just to go by, like, a fake name. And I always, I don't know why I did that. Because, like, then, like, when I graduated, like, I really couldn't use any of the articles that I wrote up. Because they weren't under my real name.
I don't think I ever realized that you wrote under a pseudonym for the paper. You called yourself Chachi?
Yeah, I like the name Chachi for some reason. I just heard it on Happy Days.
Were you like tying a bandana around your leg and saying wah 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 a lot?
I didn't go that far. I wish I did. And because I also thought the last name Love was a cool last name for anybody to have. Like, oh, Mikey Love, Johnny Love. I just called myself Chachi Love. And
now that sounds like a porn star.
I know. In hindsight, yes, it does. But I thought it sounded pretty cool. And then for the longest time, people just called me just Chachi or Chach for like a while after.
Interesting.
Even after college. But like I kind of stopped it after like maybe halfway through college because I realized, wait, well, all these things I'm writing, people don't know it's me, so I can't use all this stuff for samples for like when I want to get a real job,
right?
In the real world, so maybe I should just put Darren Patterson.
Yeah,
and then I just went by my real name like around like junior year, I want to say.
Okay, all right. So that's smart. Okay, did you have like a column where you were like outing yourself, like I Chachi Love am actually Darren Patterson?
Chachi Love unmasked.
Yeah,
I think I just gradually did it. And then, like people. I don't think anybody. I don't think it caused a fuss. Like I don't think people were
Nobody
like,
cared. Yeah.
yeah, like people were like, "How dare you? You deceived your followers, your fan base."
I remember my senior year of college, a friend of mine was writing a column in the school paper about these guys we knew who were like these five guys that lived off campus.
Uh-huh.
But I think it was some sort of student house. I think the housing they were in had some connection to the university, and it was a humorous column kind of about their misadventures and things. And I did cartoon illustrations for it, and they were called the House of the Hopeless. And we kind of developed aliases for each one of the guys. Um,
Okay, go
and then
on.
in the very last column, like right before, because we were all graduating, we just like unmasked everyone. Um, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Was it was it scandalous? Where people were like, "Oh, it's him."
No, I don't remember it being scandalous because I remember my friend Andrew who was writing the column. He said he said like in the column where he revealed everybody's identities. He was like the curious know who they are. So it was kind of like an open secret, I would say.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
All right. Fair
yeah,
enough.
like anybody who really wanted to know found out.
Right.
And but they threw really good parties, and I got invites to the parties because I was doing the cartoons.
My
And I
man.
don't know if I would have gotten invites to those parties if I hadn't been.
Okay.
So that was cool. That was cool. That was
Yeah.
some of my good college memories.
Oh, that's pretty right. All right. I didn't know you were a party animal. Okay, there. Okay, there, Hoss.
In college, I had my moments. You know, I mean, binge
Oh,
drinking will do a lot.
yeah. Someone going the Van
You know,
Wilder
I was
route.
like 21, and you can shrug that stuff off a lot more easily than I can now as a decrepit middle aged man.
Yeah, yeah. No, like I'm at that point where after two drinks, I'm kind of done.
Yeah,
Whereas if you caught me on a good night in my 20s, I like I could finish off a six pack, like no
yeah,
problem. But
yeah,
like now my body is like we tired. We done.
yeah. After two drinks, I'm just like I'm feeling a little sloppy, and I don't like this. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Uh, old age comes for us all, listeners.
yeah, it really does. It really does. And I know half of you listening to this are probably like, not me. I'm going to live forever.
Yeah,
I was like 28 yesterday.
that's right. The Grim Reaper will come for you.
And hey, speaking of aging and the Grim Reaper, that's one of the themes in our movie for this week. We're going to cover 1991 Soap Dish
Yeah,
with a killer cast in this thing. I mean,
yeah.
we've got Sally Field, we got Kevin Kline, we got Whoopi Goldberg, we got Elizabeth Shue, we got Kathy Moriarty, we got Robert Downey Jr., who is our
Ooh,
SNL connection for the week. We've got a young Terry Hatcher in this. This is like early Terry Hatcher. This is like even pre Lois and Clark Terry Hatcher.
yeah, yeah.
Because I remember seeing this movie and being like, who is this woman? She is quite striking. Oh my goodness.
Awuga,
Yes,
Awuga.
yes. Carrie Fisher's in this. Gary Marshall, Kathy Najimy. There are probably other people I'm leaving out, but it's a pretty stacked cast, man.
Yeah. So yeah, this came out May 31st, 1991. Budget of 25 mil, made about 36.5 mil. Yeah, I remember this being like a moderate hit, but I kind of it seems like it had like a strong following. Like I remember seeing this. This is like one of those movies I remember seeing on like TBS and
Yeah,
TNT when I was a kid, and
yeah.
just kind of rewatching it, mainly for like you said, Terry Hatcher. Uh, and like I remember really getting a kick out of it. Like I remember thinking this movie was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's fun. I remember this movie pretty well because when it came out in 91, I was working as either an usher or a concession stand worker at a movie theater in Nashville, Tennessee. And this was one of the movies that was playing for a good part of that summer. And during my breaks in the theater, you'd go into the theater and just like watch a little of the movie on your break, or at least that's how I spent a lot of my breaks. So like
Right.
certain segments of this movie I have seen probably easily a dozen times.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So it's like when I watch it, I probably haven't watched this movie in like at least 2 decades, but it's still very familiar to me just because I saw it so many times, or more accurately, parts of it so many times in the summer of '91. So,
Yeah, no, like I mean, I again, like I watched what this came out in '91, so
mhm.
I was in junior high, but like I remember a lot of parts of this, like especially when I rewatched it for this podcast, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that, I remember
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah, it's a flood of memories came rushing back.
Yeah, and it's a good premise for a movie. It's like a behind the scenes thing on this television soap opera, and the basic joke of the movie is that the lives of the cast are get more outrageous than the soap opera that they're playing. So yeah,
Right.
it's a fun premise for a movie, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, like I mean, I guess we can just dive into it. Yeah, so we start
Hmm.
off at the daytime soap op, the daytime TV awards. Um,
Yeah, I was thinking it was the daytime Emmys at first, but no, they call it the daytime television awards because I
yeah,
guess they didn't want to pay for Emmys. Like at the end of the movie, like several of the characters, they're holding awards, and I'm like, those aren't Emmys.
yeah,
what? Those are just like we won the fakies.
the fakey, the Cable Ace Award. It's ours.
Yeah,
The Nickelodeon. I don't know.
the Kids Choice
Kid
Awards.
Choice
Yeah,
Award. I'm trying to think of like awards that are not really awards, and I guess
yeah.
that's why
Well, I
Nickelodeon.
mean, those were real awards, but the Cable Ace Awards I know no longer exist because like shows like The Sopranos just started winning regular Emmys, so
Yeah,
there's no real point in having a cable only award.
real. Yes, the blockbuster awards.
Right, right. The
Exactly.
MTV Awards are still happening, right?
Yeah, but I don't think anybody really cares anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
kind of whatevs.
They're not really. They don't have the novelty that they did back in the day.
Yeah,
Because
it's it's a bummer.
anyway, so we're opening on these fakey awards, and yeah, it's a soap opera called The Sun Also Sets. We got Sally Field as this Susan Lucci type, except she wins Emmys. Heyo!
Damn, son. Oh, shots fired.
Because like I know Susan Lucci has like won the Emmys a time or two since, but at the time of this movie, Susan Lucci, she was kind of famous for always being nominated but never winning an Emmy.
Yeah, like I think she went like 11 years,
Hmm.
and she was always nominated, but never. Always the
Yeah,
bridesmaid, never the bride.
yeah, yeah. So she that became part of her brand, and I don't know, it was well over a decade before she won one, I think.
Yeah, I remember that being part of like a some commercial she was in,
Hmm.
where she mentions that like, oh, it's 11 years and then I haven't get the Emmy. I forget what the commercial was for. Maybe like I don't know, Dannon or something.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I've never really been a soap opera watcher. Um, my experience with like watching soap operas, my sister watched The Young and the Restless for a while, and I would like watch that with her sometimes, and I got to know it enough that I could like follow the subplots, but I never got caught up in it enough that I cared about any of the subplots, so I would like watch it and mock it while I was watching it.
Yeah, like I think my sister really was into soap operas for a while too. Like
Hmm.
I know Days of Our Lives and General Hospital were her two big ones.
Yeah,
And I want to say Young and the Restless, but I'm not 100% sure about
yeah, I know, and I know I saw Days of Our Lives a fair amount in high school because uh, when I was in high school and I was taking a journalism class,
that. Right?
my journalism teacher he was getting up there and he was basically phoning it in at this point. He wouldn't really
Nice.
teach us much of anything. And he would just have a TV on in the room, and he would watch the Days of Our Lives would be on.
Oh boy.
Uh, and I remember very distinctly that one time when he was being observed, like the principal or somebody was in to watch him teach. Then he comes in and he's like wearing a jacket and a tie. He's like at the blackboard and he's
Oh.
teaching us all this stuff. And it was just so hilarious because it was like, dude, you don't even try 90% of the year. And now you're like acting like, oh, I'm Mr. Teacher guy. And we're supposed to take you seriously. It was
Yeah.
it was kind of hilarious. I cracked up a few times during that
Uh,
class.
oh, Captain, my Captain.
Yeah.
All right.
It really was. But anyway, that's how I recognize the guy who's playing the presenter at the fake soap opera awards in this. It's his name apparently is Stephen Nichols, who plays Patch on Days of Our Lives.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. It seems like they scattered in a few actual soap opera stars here and there throughout the
Right,
show.
right.
But
So
yeah,
I just know this guy because as you might expect from the name, he wears an eye patch because I guess he lost an eye on the show at some point.
Yes, exciting.
Yeah, because
Uh,
dramatic things happen on soap operas.
yes, and so we see Sally Field's character Celeste win an award, and she thanks her cast.
Yeah,
And then we cut to the cast. We find out that a lot of the cast does not like her.
yeah. It like pans across. It's like bitch, hag. I hate her so much.
So we have Kathy Moriarty, who plays Montana Moorhead, who is
Mm-hmm.
the villain of the show,
Right,
who pretty much wants her off the show so she can have the spotlight for herself. We
right.
have Robert Downey Jr. as David, who's the producer,
Yes.
who wants to help Montana
He
get her.
wants to get with Kathy Moriarty in the worst way.
Yes.
And Kathy Moriarty has him kind of wrapped around her finger.
Yes.
And she's like, if you get Sally Field off this soap opera, you and I can, have crazy naked time together.
Yes. I believe the term is Mr. Fuzzy is yours.
Yes. Yes.
Which, wow.
Quite a way to phrase it.
Yeah. I also like this one line that they have together where, like, she's saying that, like, her fans really want to see more of her on the show.
Oh, yes.
And they show her all this, like, fan mail. And, like, there's this one letter from, like, somebody from Fort Lee, New Jersey. It's like,
yes.
See, Fort Lee. See, that's your audience. That's the heartland right there. Fort Lee, New Jersey.
That struck me. That was very funny because I worked in Fort Lee for a few years. I had my late friend Frankie Vittorell. He lived in Fort Lee, so
It's the heartland, man.
I know Fort Lee quite well, and it is like right over the George Washington Bridge from the city. So
yeah, there's a couple of New Jersey references in this movie, which I appreciated.
Yes, I knew that one would pop out at both of us because it was like, hey, Fort Lee, hey, I know that place.
Yeah, and of course, David wants Celeste off the show so he can make the show more young and hip, like Laguna Beach.
Yes, and there was not a show by that name. I mean, all the shows referenced in this movie are fake.
Yeah, very much so.
Like years later, MTV I think had a show called Laguna Beach, which I think was a soap of some kind. But
right.
Anyway, we have Whoopi Goldberg, who's Rose Schwartz, who's the head writer of the show and Sally Field's best friend on the show.
Right. Yeah, like
I find it amusing that like Whoopi Goldberg is playing a character named Rose Schwartz. So Whoopi Goldberg has a distinctive first name and then a Jewish last name, and she's playing Rose Schwartz, who has a distinctive first name and a Jewish last name. I feel like that had to be intentional.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I was like, oh, she's Rose. Okay, all right, I'll let that go.
Yeah. I was like, we don't explain how she's a Schwartz. We don't. I mean, okay, whatever. It's Whoopi Goldberg. She can do what she wants.
Absolutely. And then we also have Terry Hatcher, who plays Ariel Maloney, who's Dr. Monica DeMonico on the show too.
Yes.
And we also see Kevin Kline, who's watching all of this on a TV. And Kevin Kline's an actor, Jeffrey Anderson, who's doing dinner theater in Florida.
Yeah, he's playing Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman in Florida. And in an early scene, we see him performing. And it's just like all these old people who are like, what'd he say?
What?
And they're like, they're spilling their soup. And Kevin Kline at one point like steps off stage to like wipe off the thing. Waiters are crashing with their trays behind him. It's just a nightmare gig. It reminded me of some of the bad bar shows I've done.
Oh God. Oh,
I remember like one time I was at a bar show and like somebody made or answered a phone call in the middle of my set, and the phone wasn't far from the stage area, and like I could totally hear it on my tape. The recording I made of my set was pretty useless.
Showbiz,
the glamour of showbiz.
Oh boy, I also liked as Kevin Kline's character Jeffrey was watching the TV and he had to go back on stage. He had like he was watching it on one of those old TVs with knobs, but one of the knobs was missing, so we had to turn it off with like a pair of pliers.
Oh, geez, I missed that. That's funny.
I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
That's a good detail. Yeah, that's good. So Kevin Kline, he used to be on the soap, but he's hit hard times, and he's not had the career that he thinks he wanted or deserved, and he's an actor, so I mean, it's a great part for Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline
Yeah,
is just so good in this movie. I
yeah.
think.
He chews up some scenery in a couple scenes, but
Yeah,
he plays it very well.
he's having a blast, and he nails the right sort of over the top, tongue in cheek tone
Yes.
of this
Yeah.
movie.
The
I
show
mean,
has
I think most of the cast is doing a really nice job.
yeah. There's like a bit of a campy, tongue in cheek vibe throughout this whole movie. It almost kind of reminded me of maybe like the Birdcage or something like that. It kind of has that
Okay,
same
yeah, I
type
can
of
see that.
vibe.
I mean, it's a 1991 movie, and it's one of those movies that really reminds you the 80s didn't like end at the end of the 80s because it's like very saturated color, a lot of big hair, and part of that is they're parodying soap operas, but
Right.
it's also just kind of the style of the time. There were still a lot of the 80s in 1991.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I mean, grunge hadn't hit yet or anything. The '90s hadn't really developed their own style. There's
Yes.
a lot of neon in this movie, a lot of pink and
Oh,
neon blue.
yeah. A lot of pink.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
pink.
Still a lot of '80s looks in here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then after the award show, we see Celeste goes home. She puts the award with the rest of her awards. She's trying to call for her, I guess, living boyfriend Adam, saying that she's
Yes.
home. Turns out there's a message on her answering machine.
Uh
Adam
huh.
has decided to go back to his wife and kids. So
Yes.
he's
And
left
you
her.
know what I read on the IMDb trivia?
Hit me.
The voice of Adam on the answering machine, the man who left Celeste, is Kevin Spacey.
Oh,
So
wow. I
yeah.
wow. I did,
So
huh.
I'm gonna go out on a limb say you're probably better off.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes. Wow.
I, it's an interesting bit of trivia. Yeah, there's some other interesting casting things, but we can get into those later on.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at any of the behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, please hit me with the.
I got you, buddy. I got you.
Very nice. Very nice.
So yeah, yeah, Celeste is having a bad day. She's got Kathy Moriarty plotting against her to get her off the show. She's
Uh,
like she's 42. She's like 1 foot in the grave. Let's give her Alzheimer's or something. Let's write her off the show. And
right, right. And then we see Kathy Najimy, who's the costume designer,
mhm,
trying to keep up with Celeste, because we kind of learned that Celeste is a bit of a what's the word? Let me be
the
hypochondriac.
diva.
A bit of a diva. She's a bit, insecure,
Yeah.
bit neurotic.
Hmm.
She's a little unstable at times.
Yeah, like the new costume designer played by Kathy Najimy has put her in a turban, and she says like, "I look like Gloria fucking Swanson," which great solid Sunset Boulevard reference.
Very
By the
nice.
way, yes, which I didn't
Absolutely.
fully appreciate in 1991 because I don't think I'd seen Sunset Boulevard yet at that time, but I sort of vaguely knew what that joke was about.
Yeah, yeah. That's a joke for the more mature folks in the
That's a
audience.
joke for the cinephiles in the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we also get to see that Elizabeth Shue plays Laurie as
Uh-huh.
a struggling young actress tries to
Hmm.
break her way into the soap opera scene by she kind of poses as a balloon delivery girl and barges
Yep.
her way into the casting director, played
Yeah.
by Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher. Yeah, she's like, oh, my name is Lori. I'm an actress, and she says, my name is Betsy, and I'm a bitch.
Damn.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a small part. You're just like, wow, I'm surprised they got Carrie Fisher for this. I mean, it's always a pleasure to see Carrie Fisher in anything, but it's just like, oh wow, it's
Yeah, it
just
really is
kind of a bit part for Carrie Fisher.
yeah, like I thought her character would kind of have more to do throughout this movie, but she really kind of doesn't. I mean, she has
No,
this one kind of cool scene where she's auditioning guys for a waiter scene, and
yes,
like then she asks the guys to take off their shirts,
right,
and like as they're doing this, you can kind of slowly see the blinds to her windows are like closing by themselves,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
she asks the guys to take off their shirts while they're saying, "Oh, will you be having white wine with dinner, ma'am?"
yeah.
Which was
And that is like their only line. She's like, I think we found our waiter because
yeah.
it's 1991 and sexual harassment still hilarious.
It's a hoot. And actually, I did, because like, there's something I did notice. Like, that joke does kind of pay off because that
Uh-huh.
waiter does make an appearance later on in the movie. saying that
Yes.
line, which I was like, all right, that's a nice little callback.
Yeah, that was cute. That was cute. He does have his shirt on in that scene, so
Right.
sorry, folks.
Exactly.
Um,
But
and
yeah,
then Justice Elizabeth Shue comes in and just kind of lies her way into the casting office. RDJ is the producer. He calls up and he says, "Hey, we need new homeless people for the show, but like good-looking homeless because these people are disgusting."
like Robert Downey Jr. is one of the few people that can say that and it come off funny and charming.
Yeah, RDJ is really he's killing it in this job. In this movie, he's like all of I think like 26 years old in this movie, but he's killing it. And apparently the character was written as an older guy in his 50s, but the director had worked with RDJ before, and he was like, "Yeah, I want him for this part." So
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, director Michael Hoffman.
Michael Hoffman, who I wasn't really familiar with, I looked him up. I've only seen like a couple of his other movies. He did One Fine Day with George Clooney and Michelle Pfeiffer, which I remember being good. He did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream.
Right,
Uh,
right.
he's a director of Game 6 with Michael
Ooh,
Keaton, which
I
I was
kind.
misremembering as like a Spike Lee thing, but maybe just Spike Lee produced it or something. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, I kind of. I mean, it has to do with like the Red Sox, right? The Boston Red Sox game or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I vaguely remember that.
And he did a movie in 1988 with Patrick Dempsey and Jennifer Connelly called Some Girls, which I
Hmm.
saw not long ago.
Okay. All right. So the director's had done some stuff.
Hmm.
All right, not too shabby. All right, but yeah, yeah. So of course, since they need a homeless person, attractive, so
Yeah.
the casting director is like, "Oh, you're attractive. You want to be a
You,
homeless person?
1991 Elizabeth Shue. You are an attractive person. Yes.
Yes, you got the gig, kid."
Hmm.
Yeah, and then we cut to like Celeste kind of unloading everything that happened to
Right.
her on Rose, and then Rose decides to cheer
Yeah.
her up by doing this thing they always do: go across the George Washington Bridge, go to a mall in
Yes.
beautiful Paramus, New Jersey, and
Yes.
like she pretends to like make an appearance and like have like sort of flocks of fans sort of come to her so she can do like autographs, so she can
Right.
be
So I
recognizable.
started wondering because they do say later that it is a mall in Paramus, New Jersey. So I started thinking like, oh, well, what mall could that be? And my best guess is they're at the Garden State Plaza.
I would guess so too. I mean, there's so many malls in
That's like
Paramus.
the biggest one. There's also like the Paramus Park Mall, which I don't think I've ever been to, and there's a place called the Paramus Place Shopping Center, which looks like a smaller mall, but from the size of what they show, I'm guessing Garden State Plaza. I have no
I
idea whether they actually shot it there, but
Yeah, I would say Garden State's your best bet
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, it's a good size mall. They got a nice movie theater. I think it might even be an IMAX theater there.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. They do have a good movie theater there. Like
mhm.
the wife and I, we saw American Fiction there on Christmas, and it was
I still have to
quite.
see American Fiction. That's streaming
It's
somewhere.
that's
You've been talking that up to me for a few months, and I still have to see it.
Yeah, that's on Amazon Prime. It's very good. Like honestly,
Hmm.
if there was somebody from SNL on that show, I would maybe maybe ask that we do an episode about that. But like, yeah, folks,
And I would say no. How dare you?
what? You use your
Yeah.
veto power? Shameful.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I just
Okay,
I just felt like saying that right now
I see. Comedic
as
effect. I see what you did there.
as a joke. As a
Yes,
joke.
yes.
No,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, usually, like how we work out is like one of us says, like, "Hey, how about we do this movie?" And the other one of us says, "Yeah, that looks pretty good." We don't veto that many choices, honestly.
yeah. Yeah. It's a democracy here. It's not like
Yeah, we haggle more over the scheduling of when we're doing a particular thing than anything. So
and how.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. So like they do that. They do the thing where they go to the mall, and
yeah,
Rose pretends to be somebody else, and she's like,
yeah.
"Oh, I know
Whoopi
you.
Goldberg
Aren't?"
is so good in that scene.
She's very good. Yeah.
She's like, oh, you're that lady. You're that lady. So she pretends to be a fan so that Sally Field is swarmed with fans, and then she can get the little ego boost from that. And they kind of say that this is a thing that she does semi-regularly when she's feeling low and she needs the ego boost.
Yes,
So
exactly. I mean, I feel like that has to have come from a real thing. Like maybe like some soap opera star actually did do that, or maybe they still do that. I don't know. I feel like that
I
came from
mean,
a real
very
thing.
possible. Yeah, I
You
could.
know?
That doesn't seem like outside the realm of possibility. Yeah, but yeah, Whoopi Goldberg killing it in this movie. We go back to okay. Well, I'm trying to think of the plot. Okay, so Kathy Moriarty convinces Robert Downey Jr. to have Sally Field's character on the soap accidentally kill one of the homeless people because she wants to
Yes,
turn the audience against her and get her so make her so unpopular that she's forced to leave the show, and then Kathy Moriarty can step forward as Montana Moorhead and be the new star of The Sun Also Sets.
exactly. Fort Lee, New
Right.
Jersey, is clamoring for more Montana Moorhead.
I mean, big Montana Moorhead fans in Fort Lee, New Jersey. I mean,
Absolutely. I mean,
that is
all
one of the rock hard facts about Fort Lee, New Jersey, is
yeah,
they are such Montana Moorhead fans.
absolutely. So at the next meeting with the executives, where they bring up all the storylines and then go over the storylines, we see Ben
Hmm.
Stein making appearance, saying that
Yeah,
Ariel should be raped by Father Corey as a suggestion for a woo.
there's some questionable things said in this meeting.
Yeah,
There is one point where I think he's supposed to be one of the writers of the show. He like uses the term "colored guys" unironically,
yeah,
and I think that's just so that Whoopi Goldberg can have a reaction to it and be like, "Colored guys, really?" And
yeah.
even as a joke, that was kind of weird.
Early '90s were coming in hot, baby.
Yeah, it's. I was like, that's not. I don't know. It's not much of a punchline for for doing that, but I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're discussing the future storylines
Hmm.
for the soap opera, and of course, then the head of daytime programming comes in, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Edwards, played by the late great Gary Marshall.
Delightful, delightful. I mean, anytime you get Gary Marshall in your movie, your movie's instantly better because
Yeah.
he's just a kick.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
how what's it called? Like he sits down talking about how the ratings are in the crapper. It's
Hmm.
like people are telling me, yeah, people are saying it should be called The Sun Also Sucks.
Yeah, and he complains that the show has become very depressing and expensive because they moved the setting of the show to this, where was it, like the Bahamas somewhere or something, some sort of tropical location.
Right, and that costs money.
And yeah, so they have this big set with like a fake ocean that's like going up and down, and like a permanent sunset backdrop. And he's like, that was very expensive. That cost me like all the X amount of money. And you're doing all these issue storylines. It's depressing. I don't like depressing and expensive. You know what words I like? I like peppy and I like cheap. I want it peppy and cheap. I mean, Gary Marshall, man, the man's just so good.
Yeah, like you don't hear the word peppy as much anymore. I wish somebody would bring that back.
I heard the word peppy. I rewatched the movie That Thing You Do just a couple of nights ago.
Ooh wee.
My housemate Kim had never seen it, so I was like, okay, we got to watch That Thing You Do. And so I pulled out my DVD copy of That Thing You Do, and he really liked it. And Miss Tom Hanks is Mr. White. He uses the words peppy and snappy, and
Okay, far
That
out.
Thing You Do, amazing movie, holds up beautifully.
Very nice. There you
Yeah.
go. Awesome.
So they decide to make Elizabeth Shue the homeless deaf mute who is bipolar. So when Sally Field is dishing out soup to the homeless in like a soup kitchen, it triggers something in Elizabeth Shue's brain, and she goes at Sally Field with a knife, and then Sally Field kills her character in self defense.
Right,
That's the
exactly.
plan.
Yeah, and they want to make her mute so they don't have to pay her as much.
Right.
So
Yeah, because that is like SAG rules. If you get like a line of dialogue, you do have to be paid more. So
there you
like
go. And
a lot of times on TV shows or movies, you will see somebody who will not say something even though it makes logical sense for them to say something. Like, a cop will just give you a thumbs up or something instead of saying yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So of course, Rose hears all this and she's like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm
Hmm.
not going to write that she kills somebody." So they
Right.
kind of go around her, and they write,
Yeah.
and it's like David is writing the scene, and they plan on filming it without Rose's knowledge, which is
Right. Like Kathy Moriarty basically like lures Rose off the set. She's like, "Well, I want to talk about my character," and Rose is like, "Why? You just inherited money from your uncle." She's like, "Well, yeah, let me. But what was my relationship like with my uncle? What's my motivation?" And yeah, she's just doing this just to get Rose off the set.
exactly. And then David sort of convinces Celeste to do it by saying, "Oh, this is coming from the top. The big man wants murder. He wants it to be like
Right.
this."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. David is always like playing both sides against the middle, and
Yep.
yeah, just
He's a
he's
pro-
like, "Hey, it's not up to me. I'm backed into a corner here."
he's a
So so
producer.
the, so they start shooting the scene, and it starts going as planned. But then when Elizabeth Shue gets up to the line, uh, to the front of the line, Sally Field recognizes her, and she's like, "Oh my God, Laurie!" And we find out that Laurie is actually Celeste's niece.
Nepo baby.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Knew it.
And of course, like Sally Field has been a very devoted aunt to her, and just like, flying out to see her school play, sending her all sorts of money and ba 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 and ba 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 and
Yeah.
yeah. So they're very tight, and Sally Field's like, "Oh no, you're gonna come live with me
Yeah,
while you're in the
because
city."
we find out Laurie left college and she just
Hmm.
really wants to act.
Right.
And but like Celeste is like kind of saying, "No, you really shouldn't. You shouldn't get in this business. It's a
Yeah.
mess." I like
Because Celeste has been on the show since she was like 16, so she has known nothing but this soap. This soap is her entire career.
Yeah, and I think at one point Laurie says, "Well, you were 16 when you left town and came to New York." And then she
Right.
says, "You see me as a role model?"
Yeah. 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 Because I mean, yeah, Sally Field, she's having a rough time of it. I mean, hell, so like later on in the movie, she actually like tries to commit suicide. I mean, it's a comical
Yeah.
scene, but
Yeah,
I
like
was like, oh, I'd kind of forgotten about this moment. Wow.
yeah, like I mean, I don't know if yeah, that was like a little like whoa. Like I don't even know if she was serious about it, if she was just being kind of overly dramatic. But yeah, it was still like, oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that's like maybe not aged great in this movie. It's like, oh, I don't know if many movies today would present a suicide attempt as a joke. That's
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I think you.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
doubt it. I think you run into too many problems.
Yeah, yeah. It's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing, and
Absolutely.
there are more tricky things to come. Let's just say
Oh,
that.
oh, you. Oh, yeah. Especially that one
Yeah,
big, that
the
one
big
tricky thing.
ending. I mean, the payoff for one of the big subplots in this movie is not aged well. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
and I remembered how that ended, and I'm watching the lead up to it all through this, and I was just like, oh boy, this is wow. We would not do this today,
no,
rightfully so.
not, no. I mean, at the time, I thought it was funny, but like it,
Yeah,
yeah, not so much.
it used to be like one of the go-to comedy switcheroo things. Well, we'll get there. We're jumping ahead a
We'll
little
get there.
too
We'll get
much.
there.
So the other another way they decide to plot against Celeste is they bring back Kevin Kline's character of Jeffrey Anderson, who like he was on the soap back in the day, but he was fired 20 years ago at Celeste's insistence, and so his
Celeste's behest.
yes, and so his career has not gone great since then. Hence the dinner theater in Florida. But Robert Downey Jr. comes to him and he's like, "We're going to bring you back on the show." And Kevin Kline's like, "Oh, well, that's great because I need the money to put up my one man version of Hamlet
Yeah,
because he has a theory that the entire play is happening in Hamlet's head, so you don't need any of the other characters."
I mean, that's not. Yeah, maybe it is kind of bad.
Yeah, I think, but I love how he like Kevin Kline's pitching this idea to him, and Robert Downey Jr. is like, "Oh yeah, no, that's good. That actually clears up a lot of things for
Yeah,
me."
We could do this off Broadway or off Broadway.
Right. I mean, he's just basically saying whatever Kevin Kline wants to hear, so he can get him back on the show and then sabotage Sally Field.
Absolutely.
But it's very funny. I mean, I got a kick out of Robert Downey Jr. in this movie.
Yeah, no, Robert Downey Jr. He does a lot with his role. He really
and it's 1991 Robert Downey Jr. So it's like right around the time that the Winter Soldier murdered Tony Stark's parents. So Robert Downey Jr. had a lot going on at this time.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. For half this movie, I'm looking at Robert Downey Jr. and I'm like, oh, this is what they were. This is what they were going for in when what movie is it that flashes back to Civil War? When they're flashing back to 1991 college-age Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
Oh. And I was like, oh, this is what he actually looked like in 1991. So
yeah.
they were probably looking at this movie, just trying to gauge it. Or maybe going a little earlier. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I still remember when watching Civil War and they showed, like, the de-age Robert Downey Jr. I was like, geez, that's really good.
Yeah, they did a really nice job of it. I think because they had a lot of footage for him and also because it's Marvel, so they got a lot of money to toss at it. So
absolutely. But I did like this. I did like this one scene where Jeffrey comes back to New York with Robert Downey Jr.'s character David, and they shave him, they give him a nice little facial, they make him look all pretty, they put him in a snappy white suit.
Yes, and very tropical.
Yes, and he meets up with Ariel, played by Terry Hatcher for the first time.
Terry Hatcher, yes,
and then they have like a little back and forth where he says, "Oh, you have very beautiful eyes." And she says, "Thank you. They're nothing compared to my tits."
Yes.
And he was like, whoa.
Which is pretty funny because like one of Terry Hatcher's more famous roles was when she was on Seinfeld, and she was the person who said like they're real and they're spectacular. So it's
exactly.
That's a funny kind of connection.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to do. That's amazing. I still remember this scene because when I used to watch it on TBS and TNT, like instead of tits, they'd like bleep it out and put like, that they're nothing compared to my body. I was like,
okay.
It doesn't quite work as well, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, body is just not a very funny word. Tits is a funny word. Tits,
damn straight.
Because you got that hard T. It's just a better gag with tits.
Yeah.
With the word tits, I mean.
Exactly, of course.
Yeah.
So then Rose finds out what David is doing of bringing back Jeffrey, and of course she's upset, saying, "Well, we killed him off. He was decapitated. He doesn't have a head. How am I supposed to write for somebody that doesn't have a head?" And
yeah.
And of course David's like, we reattach it, and like,
it's a new surgical option. Like they reattach it in an emergency procedure. Why is this so hard? and yeah, it's sort of taking the absurd plots of soap operas and just pushing it a little bit further into the realm of satire, and it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course Celeste finds out. She kind of has a bit of a meltdown that this man from her past is coming back,
right?
And but the two of them go on with this scene, and there's of course a lot of tension there.
Yeah, and their characters have a romantic connection, and they kiss, and Sally Field is starting to feel feelings for him again, but then he's like kind of going up on his line, and he's like, wait, I'm sorry, what's the line, and it makes it very obvious that he's not really feeling anything for her,
right?
And so she gets mad and she like kicks him in the in the crotch mid kiss, and
right in the doodads.
And we see him sort of struggling to get out his lines.
I love you so much.
After that, I love you so much.
Kick to the groin. Where has that gone? How come I don't see that in as many comedies anymore?
It's not as much of a go-to as it used to be for comedies. That's true.
We're forgetting our history.
Have we seen every variation of kicking in the groin jokes?
Knee to the groin, foot to the groin, baseball to the groin.
Yeah, sure. Oh, my crotch.
Yeah, like
a little George C. Scott from The Simpsons for you.
Absolutely. I don't know. I feel like it's a lost art. Kicking people in the groins. We're forgetting our history, people.
I could go for a good one of those every once in a while. The gag, not the actual kick to the groin.
Yeah, I was about to say like I'll be right over, John, and
no,
kick you in the nards.
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's
upon request.
You figuratively do that every week on this podcast.
Hey-o, damn straight. but yeah, so like they after he gets kicked in the nards, they have
Hmm.
this big kind of blowout argument about how
Yeah, yeah,
she sabotaged his career,
yeah.
and he's like,
So
look,
he's got a grudge, and at one point, she starts walking away, and he's like, "Oh, where are you off to? Got to get to the mall." And it's
ooh,
ooh, low blow. So like he knows all her tricks and
yeah,
her things. So yeah,
give them my best in Paramus.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
but
I also like there's a scene where Lori introduces herself to Jeff Anderson. So it's Elizabeth Shue introducing herself to Kevin Kline. She's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Lori. I'm the deaf mute, the homeless deaf mute on the show." And he says, "Oh, you speak beautifully for a mute." Underrated line. Underrated line. That's very
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
I love how Kevin Kline just underplays it. Very funny.
yeah. No, it's a good line. Everybody's really on their A game in this movie. I
Hmm,
really
hmm,
appreciate
yeah.
it. But yeah, so like you said, Lori and Jeffrey meet up and talk, and then uh,
They have a
Jeff
connection.
they have a connection,
Yeah.
and Jeffrey asks her out to dinner.
Yes. And she says yes. And he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, just like that." And she's like, "Just like that."
yeah.
Yes.
And Celeste finds out. She's very upset about this, and
She goes kind of apeshit. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we find out why later, why she
Yeah,
goes.
like the way it's presented at first, you think, oh, well, it's just jealousy because she still has unresolved feelings for Jeff Anderson. So, no, there's more going on. There's
Yeah,
more
like
going on.
a turn I really didn't see coming. Like the first time I remember watching this movie, like when that turn comes, I'm like, oh shit! Like it genuinely shocked me, like I was watching an actual soap opera.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember my first reaction because I mean this movie is so familiar to me at this point that yeah, I'm just like, well, this is kind of obvious because I can do math, but
All right, mathematician, la di da. Ooh, I know numbers. Ooh.
well, hey, they don't call me an SNL nerd for nothing. I do math while I watch movies,
John the
ladies.
John the calculator Trumbull. That's two
By the way,
nicknames.
did you notice like this huge continuity error in this movie
Um,
with Kevin Kline's apartment number?
yes, I did notice that. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so Sally Field, she's obsessively following Kevin Kline and Elizabeth Shue on their date, and Sally Field like comes in front of Jeffrey Anderson's building, and she's talking to the doorman. She's like, "Hey, I have a meeting with him tomorrow. I forget what his apartment number was. Was it like 11A?" And the doorman goes 2D, and then like the very next scene, we see his apartment door, and it is prominently 2A.
Yeah, what was that a big old mistake on
I
their
mean,
part?
it has to be. It has to be. I'm assuming they just shot those scenes far enough apart that nobody noticed, but it is like,
It's
and if this movie had been made just a few years later, they either would have used CGI to fix the apartment, the number on the door, or they would have redubbed those lines so that they say 2A instead of 2D. I
yeah,
mean, I get why you don't want to reshoot that whole thing, but it is really obvious because it's like they open the door and the 2A is right there staring you in the face.
yeah. Like I mean, that was an easy fix. They could have just had the doorman like say the lines like 2D or reshot it or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, that is
I
a
mean, yeah, just dub it so he says 2A. And yeah, even if it doesn't match the. I mean, of course, really, because he's an actor, it should have been 2B.
oh
Right?
bravo,
Right?
bravo, sir, bravo.
Right? Yeah.
It should have been. It should have been.
That's the real missed opportunity of this.
Hmm.
But
Uh,
uh,
but yeah, yeah. So Laurie and Jeffrey go out on a date. They
yeah,
have dinner and talk, and Laurie tells Jeffrey, like her parents have passed away, and but she was
yeah.
raised by her grandmother and her aunt Celeste, and
Hmm.
and that's it. So like then the two of them go back to his place, but they don't do anything. They just like kind of talk a
No,
little bit more.
he's gonna kiss her goodnight, and then he just there's this weird moment where he just kind of pauses and he like kisses her on the forehead.
Oof,
And Elizabeth Shue's like, okay, that's weird, but okay, all right, whatever. Um, and Sally Field's getting so worked up about this, she like actually climbs the fire escape outside the building to make sure that nothing untoward is going on with
right?
between
No,
Kevin
absolutely.
Kline and her niece.
Exactly. And then but Klein thinks she followed them because she's still in love with him. and like
Right.
she
Yeah. At
tries
one
to
point,
deny
she's
it.
like, "You're an egomaniac, even for an actor." And he says, "Of course, I'm an egomaniac. I've got America's sweetheart climbing outside my window." And I mean, such a good part for Kevin Kline. This is, yeah, he's. I really have always liked Kevin Kline. I think he's very underrated as an actor, and
Yeah, for
uh, I,
sure.
I I can't think of a film he's done where that I haven't liked him in. You know, even if the film's not great, I think he's good.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, like he had like a run there, like in the late '80s, early '90s, where he was like just killing it. Like this,
Mhm.
Fish Called Wanda. Uh,
Oh yeah, won an Oscar for A Fish Called Wanda.
yeah, like
Um,
Dave.
and apparently, this is another one from the IMDb trivia, IMDb, where it says extensive reshoots on this film forced Kevin Kline to withdraw from Hook, the movie Hook, and he was replaced by Robin Williams. So we could have had
Oh,
Kevin Kline in the movie Hook, which
wow.
that's interesting. I've never heard that before. So
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm sure he would have killed it, but yeah, like I don't know. Like, that's one of those.
that's just a very different movie.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah,
Okay, but
but I want to look in on the parallel universe where Kevin Kline was in Hook.
sliding doors.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so we go back to the soap opera set, and we see that
Hmm.
Montana and David are still plotting, and they're writing in a scene where there's like a love triangle between Laurie's character, Jeff's character, and Celeste's character,
Right.
and like
And there's a scene where like because Jeff's character he's a doctor and he's treating Laurie's deaf mute homeless girl character
yes,
and I think like trying to restore her voice.
yes, Dr. Rod Randall,
Rod Randall, yes,
which is
and Sally Field is like, oh well, I'm not in this scene, and then Rose is like, what are you talking about? I wrote the scene. You should be in the scene. And she's like, there's a new scene. I'm not in it. And then she goes down to the set and she like snags a copy of the script and she sees that Jeff is supposed to kiss Lori on the show and she freaks the fuck out.
yeah, like a straight up
Um,
meltdown. Like she goes
mhm.
up, like she says, "No, don't kiss," and she goes in front of the cameras as herself,
Right.
Celeste, and
Yeah.
she basically, and the cameras are still rolling, and she just lets out the big secret she's been keeping in for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Lori is not my niece; she's my daughter, and
Yeah.
Jeffrey, you're her father.
I mean, this is some Chinatown shit right here.
God
Um,
damn.
yeah. Yeah. So she's like, yeah, and then she like spouts out the whole backstory. She was like, you remember Jeff, our fourth date, Shakespeare in the Park, all's well that ends well, and which great ironic choice of a play. And
Nice.
so apparently she got pregnant, and then she had to be like written off the show so she could go back to where was it, Iowa or something to
Yeah, yeah, she's from Des Moines.
yeah to have her kid, and then leaves him with her mother uh, to raise, and then she comes back to the show and she's so upset at Jeff for what she feels ruined her life, and that she has Jeff fired off the show.
Yeah, and
And
she even created like a whole backstory for a sister she never had that was Lori's mom, and
who is her identical twin sister? Yeah,
yeah,
it's a very soap opera type
yeah,
backstory. Yeah, which
yeah. Like at
nice
one
touch.
point, Rose hears all this, is like, why can't I write shit like this?
Yeah, and okay, so she has this big revelation, and by the way, this happens when Lisa Gibbons from Entertainment Tonight is on the
Yes,
set,
remember
and we
Lisa?
see Lisa Gibbons like writing this down in a little notepad.
Remember
Um,
Lisa Gibbons? Everybody.
I think people our age know Lisa Gibbons. I don't feel like the generations after us have any concept of who Lisa
Yeah,
Gibbons
I know.
is.
I'm talking to the Gen Xers. I'm not talking to
Yeah,
these young
yeah. I mean, I was just
whippersnappers.
like, what the heck happened to Lisa Gibbons? I hope she's well.
I think she. I'll look it up. I think she's around.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she's probably still bouncing around reporting on entertainment somehow. But
Yeah,
yeah, but like back on Entertainment Tonight, this is back in the Mary Hart, John Tesh days. Is Entertainment Tonight still on? I
I
don't even know.
think so.
Yeah, it's good. You know, it's just like in those pre-internet days, we had to have half-hour TV shows to tell us what was going on in Hollywood. Um,
Yeah, like I remember that.
and and one of those reporters was Lisa Gibbons, so she was a very familiar face in the early '90s.
Absolutely.
Um, and she's playing herself in this, which is cute. So Jeffrey is mad because he's a father. He had no idea that he was a father. Celeste has
Which,
kept the secret from him for 20 years.
yeah.
Laurie is mad because she never knew that Celeste was her actual mother, and she's kept the secret for 20 years. And then, for reasons I don't understand, Rose is mad. Like Rose. Okay, I get. I was like, I get why Kevin Kline and Elizabeth Shue are storming off the set, and they have good reason to be mad. But then, like, Rose storms off the set, and I'm like, why is Rose mad?
I,
What stake does she have in this?
I guess none, but I guess it is a little disturbing to hear that your friend's been duping two innocent people for over 20 plus years.
Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe she's just getting mad on behalf of the other
Yeah,
people.
because like later on in the movie, she does kind of forgive her pretty easily. Where it's like,
Right. Yeah, but it's just like,
like
yeah, Rose storms off and then she disappears from the movie for like 10 or 15 minutes.
yeah,
I'm like,
I guess like when you initially hear something like that, it's like, oh
yeah.
yeah, like I had you, but I had you as a child when I was 16, and I told you were my niece, but you're actually my daughter. Like when you
Right.
first heard that about a friend, that's like, oh,
Okay.
like maybe that's it.
That's good reasoning. I'll accept that. I was like, I was thinking of personal stakes, and I was like, wait, what
No,
stakes does Rose have in this? On
no,
this?
I
Is
think
it like just
yeah.
was Ruby Goldberg just like, hey, I'm needed on the set of Next Generation in like 2 hours, so I gotta go.
Oh wow, wow.
I gotta shoot Ghost. I'm gotta be counseling Captain Picard.
Yeah.
As Guinan and the bartender. I've got this huge hat to put on.
Got a lot. She's a busy lady.
I've got the script for this Sister Act movie to read. I got a lot going on, people.
Yeah, we got a lot irons in the fire.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg was killing it in the early 90s.
Oh my God. Eddie. What else? Other movies?
What was Eddie? I don't think I remember Eddie.
That's like a movie where it's like she plays like a fan of the New York Knicks and who somehow becomes the manager of the New York Knicks.
I don't know if I've ever heard of this movie. What the hell?
It was I don't think it did very well, but it was like
It must not have.
Yeah, it's like basically what happens when a super fan becomes like runs the team that they're
Okay, that's a neat premise. That's kind of cool.
I remember it being okay, but like
Eddie with
Eddie.
Whoopi Goldberg. All right, I'll try to check that out. I wonder if it's streaming anywhere.
Just might be. I'm not saying you should check it out. I'm just saying it's a movie.
It's a movie that exists.
Yes.
That Whoopi Goldberg was in.
Absolutely,
Eddie.
That's all I'm saying. And there was that one, Theodore Rex, where she plays like a cop in the future with like a dinosaur.
With a dinosaur partner. I remember that.
See, how do you remember that, but not Eddie?
Well, I remember that because I remember the DVD cover. Okay, I've just looked up Eddie, and I'm looking at the DVD cover, and she's just like standing there. She's holding a basketball, and there are like some silhouetted figures. Is she in like a locker room shower or something?
Yes, because she's a lady, but she's running a team with a bunch of guys. That's crazy.
Okay. And Darren, there's like a little picture of you on the corner, and you're giving the thumbs up.
Oh,
it's like Darren Patterson approved. Chachi Love, big thumbs up for this movie. Wow.
They didn't take that down? Damn it.
No.
All right, I gotta make some calls after this podcast.
Chachi Love really he says, I recommend this movie wholeheartedly and I will not change my opinion in the next 30 years. Wow.
It must be another Chachi Love that looks like me.
I mean, okay.
We're a dime a dozen.
Yeah, sure. Chachi's a very common name.
Yeah, of course. It's like Jonathan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a ticket. So basically after this big meltdown and now no one wants to talk to Celeste anymore, Montana's like, yes, I got him.
Yeah.
So now after all this, the suits, the execs, I was going to say either suits or execs, and it came into one word, exudes.
It came out exudes. Yeah, they're exuding pleasure at how this plot twist has happened, and it's a boon for the show.
Yes, they're all figuring out what to do now, and of course Dave was like, well, we can't have her. She's unstable. She's crazy. We can't have her after this big outbreak. We got to let her go.
Right.
But of course, Mr. Edwards is like, no. We need to keep her on, actually.
Right.
Because like the phone's been ringing off the hook and they're going to be on the evening news. And now this struggling little soap opera has some heat, and I believe his words are they're gonna milk every drop of promotion they can out of it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and meanwhile, Laurie and Jeff, they've kind of allied themselves against Celeste because they both have reason to be upset with Celeste. And he's like, maybe you and I can transition the friendship that we started into like sort of a father-daughter thing. So he's like trying to be a good guy. He's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean,
And he has a great line. He says, "One more date, and we would have had a Greek tragedy on our hands."
yeah, because they came dangerously close to being some old boy shit.
Right, but oh wow,
That movie's so
spoilers.
Yeah, sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen Old Boy. Yeah, that movie's so disturbing. I was like, oh Jesus, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie, but I know about the twist in that movie. And
it's really like, oh god, like,
yeah.
I was unsettled. I was unsettled.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they were going for. But and this movie, it stays on the right side of that because like they don't even have those two kiss. He just there's some instinct that holds him back, and he just kisses Elizabeth Shue on the forehead. Maybe because Carrie Fisher was on set and says, "Hey, maybe if you're going to reveal these two characters are related, maybe don't have them lock lips."
Yeah,
I've done that. Didn't work out great.
Didn't work out good.
No. And now Empire Strikes Back is really weird for everyone to watch.
It is, as the kids say, cringe.
Yes, it is what we would now call problematic.
Yes. But yeah, so they both kind of allied themselves against Celeste, who really did them dirty. Like, I get it.
Right.
But after all this, Laurie kind of sees a little rise in her fame. Like now the paparazzi are starting to take pictures of her outside.
Right. There's a neat scene where she's like being hounded by the paparazzi. She's just crossing the street, and I think she's just trying to get into Celeste's building, I guess, because she's living with Celeste. And then after she goes in and the paparazzi can't follow her, then she kind of comes out again. She's like, "Oh, I kind of like the attention." And then so that's an interesting turn in her character.
Yeah, it starts to go to her head a little bit. You can see, like, that was an interesting thing in this movie where, like, you see she does sort of become a little, she starts to get a little high off of her very rapid rise to fame.
She becomes a little bit of a diva herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't blame her because, like, the top brass starts to like her more. They start to she starts to become like the focus of the soap opera more. She becomes
the hot young thing that Montana wanted to be.
Yes, the hot new ingenue.
Right. And there's a nice scene where Celeste is sort of counseling Jeffrey on how to forge more of a relationship with Laurie as, father-daughter. And as she's coaching Jeffrey on how this should go, she just starts instinctively going into actor terminology. She's saying like, and then you cross to her. And I was like, that's a good joke. That's a good joke. That's a subtle joke. But I really like that. That was cute.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was fantastic. But this all gets to Montana. Because like now the top brass likes her. Laurie is starting to get a fan base, and at one point she's I believe David says, they're gonna write it in the script that she gets her voice back. So she's gonna
and we see Laurie getting like a big headshot in the hallway in the production offices. So she's like the hot young thing. She's on like some magazine covers and stuff like that. She's got heat.
She's got heat, and like everything that Montana has tried to do to make herself like a bigger star is kind of backfiring in her face. Even at one point, I think they mentioned that they want to write in that Celeste is Montana's mother, which would not even make sense.
Yeah, because they say, like Montana says early in the movie that she's 28, and Sally Field is playing like 42. They say her character is 42. I looked up their actual ages. Sally Field was actually 45 when this movie came out, and Kathy Moriarty was actually 30. So that could maybe just barely work if she was gave birth at 15. But 28 and 42 that doesn't work so well.
Not so much, Mr. Numbers, ladies and gentlemen. He's out here crunching.
Yeah. I had a little time to kill before we recorded, so I was like, I'm going to look up what their real ages are.
Absolutely.
Because I'm a nerd.
But yes, but like at this point, Montana's at her breaking point, seeing that
Yeah.
now Lori is going to eclipse her. David is pretty
Right.
much
She's one further down on the pecking order.
yes.
So
So
yeah.
like David is kind of useless. So now she's
Yeah.
taking matters into her own hands, and she does that by going to the tabloids and saying that she is pregnant with Jeffrey Anderson's baby.
Yeah. I don't really know what her end game is there.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
it's
know
like,
what is that.
how do you maintain that lie?
Yeah, because
Because like in 9 months' time, probably less, because you don't really announce a pregnancy until you're at least a couple or 3 months into it.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe she just pretends she lost the baby or something like that, and then
yeah,
really get people's on her side.
but I mean, I guess she just did that just to get the camera on her and the publicity on
Yeah,
her. But then, like that lasts for only so long because then,
yeah.
yeah, this it's not a well thought out
I feel
plan.
like Montana is not a terribly smart person. Probably didn't think this all the way through.
Absolutely, but once they hear the news, both Lori and Celeste are upset with Jeffrey, even though Jeffrey denies it. Said like I never slept with that, I never touched her,
Right,
but they don't believe him because
right.
he has a bit of a cad, he has a bit of a history.
He's a bit of a cad. Yeah, we see him like picking up. We see him hitting on a woman early in the movie, played by Sheila Kelly, by the way, who's the
Oh,
actress who kind of became known. She was on L.A. Law not too long after this. She's married to what's his name? Played Toby on The West Wing. Richard Schiff. Richard Schiff.
yes,
I apologize to the great Richard Schiff for momentarily forgetting your name. I love you. You are at times my spirit animal on The West Wing. You are wonderful. Um,
very nice.
and come on, he's married to Sheila Kelly.
Hey now,
Or yeah.
yeah, I thought that
So
was somebody else for a minute, but I couldn't.
mhm.
I forgot the name of the actress that I thought it was, like the deaf actress. Who,
Uh-huh.
I
Oh
thought,
yeah, she does look a little like Marley Matlin, who was
yes,
also on The West Wing. Yes.
yes, I thought that was Marley. I was scouring the credits for the longest. Like, was that Marley Matlin? And
I could see how you would think that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's not out of left field. Yeah.
absolutely. But after this news comes out that Montana's claiming to be pregnant,
Right.
all the main stars and soap are upset. They all go to Mr. Edwards saying they can't work together. This
Right.
either he goes or I go.
Yeah, it's them or me. And even Lori, who's like the newest minted star on the soap. And
Yeah,
like Jeff was, he's just recently returned to the soap, but I think he was supposed to be kind of a beloved, popular character, so he probably has a bit of cachet.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
but
Lori is like she just got the gig, and Lori she's like kind of throwing her weight around.
yeah, yeah, and this all comes to a head like they're going to announce or reveal which character is being written off the show in a big live episode, and so I was like, oh, so now we're just in the end of Tootsie. Okay.
Dude, I totally this is Tootsie. I thought.
It was like it's the end of Tootsie. Why are they doing this episode live? I don't know. They don't really even try to justify it. They're just like, no, we're going to do this live. The actors will find out they're being written off the show in real time, and they're all going to read their lines off the teleprompter. And I'm just like, why are you doing this live? There's no reason. I guess it's supposed to be for the extra publicity, but
We're pulling a Tootsie.
it's we're pulling a Tootsie here. It's like, hey, remember the movie Tootsie? Let's do that.
Yeah, and also we should also mention that like after Montana says she's pregnant with Jeffrey's
Hmm.
baby, Ariel, Terry Hatcher's character, reads this in the paper and is very upset because earlier in the movie she made it very clear to Montana that she has a thing for Jeffrey. It's like hands off, he's mine type of thing.
Oh, is that what her motivation was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like
Okay.
yeah, because like once when Jeffrey and Celeste get into the argument, like I guess that turns Ariel on, and he's like, "Oh, he's mine. He's hot."
Okay. Yeah, I think I missed that because they set it up so briefly. And one of my notes was, why is Terry Hatcher have to get Kathy Moriarty all of a sudden? I thought they had mutual enemies.
Yeah,
So I missed that. Okay.
yeah, but then like
Terry Hatcher's part's a little underwritten, I will say.
I would say very underrated. Yeah, I mean she's
Yeah, because she wasn't a star yet. I
yeah
feel like if this movie had been made a few years later after like Lois and Clark, they would have given her a little more to do.
yeah like that she was still kind of on the come up. This was before.
Right, like because at the beginning we've got those fun, peppy, zippy animated credits, and they list all the stars' names, and then Terry Hatcher's like the first name after those opening credits. So Terry Hatcher, it's a good part for her at the level she was at then, but she's not at the level of like an Elizabeth Shue or a Kathy Moriarty or whatever.
Right, right, absolutely. She's still on the come up. This is before Desperate Housewives and some other stuff she was in.
I mean, Desperate Housewives was like the '90s, or
right.
late '90s, I think. But I think Lois and Clark was really what made her name.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking up now. This is like the third movie she's ever did.
Yeah, so it's still very early in her career.
Yeah, she did The Big Picture, and then Tango and Cash, and then this.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so she's on the come up. Mm-hmm. I did like the twist for the live broadcast where they're feeding everybody's lines on the teleprompter. And I'd forgotten this. Jeffrey, because he's a vain actor, he doesn't want to wear his glasses. So he is misreading lines from the teleprompter and he's getting them wrong. And I was like, oh, I'd forgotten about this. That's a nice twist. That's a nice little extra note for them to play. They didn't have to do that, but I really like that.
Right, exactly. And I do like how Sally Field's character Celeste had to constantly correct him, saying, "Oh, it's a terrible, terrible thug thing."
Right,
terrible thing.
It's a terrible thing. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Because as they read off the teleprompter, the scene starts with Laurie and Celeste having dinner in a restaurant, and that's where we see our shirtless waiter from earlier in the movie.
Yeah, but he has a shirt on.
Sorry, ladies. Mm-hmm. And but then the doctor, Rod Randall, comes in, and he tells her basically that Laurie is going to die. She has this inoperable illness in her brain where her brain will literally explode
in like a matter of hours. Yes,
exactly. So this is where we find out the show is gonna kill off Laurie, which I don't know. That kind of doesn't make sense because she seems like the hot new young actress. You want to keep her around for a bit, but.
Yeah, I think it's just the implication is supposed to be that she's losing out to the more established stars. She's still so new. I guess they figure they can afford to lose her more than they can afford to lose their other big stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, whatever.
Right. So Laurie's kind of realizing, oh, I guess I'm done here on the show. Then Nurse Nan, Montana Moorhead's character, comes into the restaurant in her nurse's outfit saying, "Oh, doctor, what about a brain transplant?"
Right.
And she suggests that they perform surgery in the restaurant on her brain and put a new brain in Laurie's head.
So the actors, they're all just improving this new ending for the show on this live episode because
none of this is.
You can only do this live.
Yes, none of this is in the script. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah. No. Yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. I'll do it. And goddamn thing sucks. I love that Bill O'Reilly clip so much because he just loses his shit because he doesn't know what play it out means. It's so funny.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's pretty fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's just like, oh, he is such an asshole.
Phenomenal television, ladies and gentlemen.
It really is.
But at this point, so Celeste says, "Yes, take my brain, doctor. I'll donate my brain to you. Right. I want to do it. I want you to take my brain." And then
I just realized this is like basically how they got Joey Tribbiani back on Days of Our Lives on the Friends show. Didn't they like transplant Susan Sarandon's brain into him?
I think so. It's been a while since I've seen that episode, but I think so. Yeah, maybe.
I think they did something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Did Friends rip off this movie? I'm thinking so.
Interesting.
Thinking so. Yeah.
So basically, it's Celeste saying, "I will give up my place on this soap opera so Laurie can be on the soap opera."
Right. Basically. Yeah, and there's a nice moment where like Kevin Kline as Jeffrey Anderson as Dr. Ron Randall, he leans in and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this? It's a lot to give up." And she says, "It'll be a relief. Go ahead and do it."
Yeah.
And it's a nice moment.
Yeah, it's a nice moment. And as they clear off the tables to perform surgery in this restaurant, and as the doctor's about to cut in, that's when Laurie says, "Mother, no!" And she stops it, and we have.
And she's calling her by her real name.
Yes,
too.
Calling her mother, and So
Yeah.
like this is like where the lines between soap opera and real life kind of are blurring a little bit,
Yeah.
and like
Blurring a lot. Yeah.
quite a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
but then
And then Terry Hatcher comes in with Rose, with Whoopi Goldberg, and she's like, "Oh, I've got this doctor, and she's discovered this incredible truth about
yeah,
Montana Moorhead."
right, because like as because basically Laurie's kind of forgiving Celeste, saying like I don't want you to go off the show. I
Right.
want you to stay, and like maybe in time we could patch up our relationship and be mother and father, mother and daughter.
Mother and daughter and
Yes.
father,
So
and
she's willing
yeah.
to like be like, it'll take some time. Don't lie to me anymore. But I'd like us to have a relationship again. And so they're
Right.
like the three of them are like reconnecting in front of everybody. It's beautiful. Then Montana says, "Wait, but I'm carrying his child." And
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Yes.
right, and
Yes.
then that's when Jeffrey's like, "I never slept with her." Will somebody believe me? And that's when Rose comes in dressed as a doctor from
Hmm.
a sex change clinic in Bethesda, Maryland,
Yes.
followed by Doctor Monica Del Monaco, and then here we go.
Do you want to say it, or should I?
I'll let you say it.
Okay. All right. So they reveal that Montana Moorhead actually used to be Milton Moorhead. So Montana has had a sex change operation. And they show like a picture of a yearbook of Milton Moorhead, and it's, Kathy Moriarty made up as a dude in a black and white photo. So
Yeah,
it's doing a
yeah,
similar thing to what a Mighty Wind did at the end, where it's just, oh, we're going to suddenly reveal that this character had a sex change operation, and that's the gag. That's it.
yeah. It's not. I mean, I guess in a way they're trying to say, well, this is the way to prove that she's lying about being pregnant because
Right, and she's a hypocrite,
yeah,
and all this, and yeah, she's a bad person, but yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot to get past, where it's just like, oh, this person used to be the other gender. Isn't that funny? Ha ha ha
yeah.
ha ha.
I mean, it's not as bad as like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. It's not that on that level, but it's
Right.
like it's still like they're kind of outing somebody
Well,
without
yeah,
their
they're
knowledge.
outing them on national television without their consent. I mean, that's creepy in a whole nother way, And this is like two of our heroes doing this.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and then
and
of course Montana has a full freak out, just storms off the stage screaming.
right, and then she runs into Robert Downey Jr., who for the whole movie he's like, "I'm attracted to you in the strangest way." I think he says that more or less word for word. Like he's attracted to her, and he says like a few times like, "Oh, I don't get what's going on here. You're not my type. You're." And so they're trying to set this up, and then she runs into him. She goes, "David," and he just says, "Milton," and it's not as bad as it could have been,
It's not. It's not
but
great. I'm not
yeah,
excusing it, but it's definitely not as bad as it could have been.
it's really hard to watch this bit today without getting a creepy feeling
Yeah,
of how they presented it.
yeah. I would say that for sure.
Yeah. So
So that's what happens to our villain, and
yeah, yeah, and we have a quick shot at the end. We have the outdoor of the dinner theater where Jeffrey Anderson was performing Death of a Salesman. Only now it's Milton Moorhead in Death of a Salesman. So I guess the implication is that Montana went back to being Milton.
I
Or
guess yeah.
is the implication supposed to be okay? They say they had a sex change operation. So did they change back, or are they just cross
I mean,
dressing, or did they not go all the way with? I don't know. It's
I
very vague.
yeah. They don't really go into it that much, but yeah, it is a little. I guess they had a sex change in are talking under the.
I don't know.
I
I don't
don't
know if
know.
the writers thought it through this
Yeah,
much.
I don't know if they know how sex changes work.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I
Like, oh, you
guess,
could just attach it back on, right? Like, I don't
or
know.
maybe I know that some people who go male to female, they choose not to go all the way with it, and they keep their original genitalia. So maybe it's something like that. But again, I don't know if the writers thought it through this much. So we're probably way overthinking it.
Yeah, but yeah, so basically, at the end of the movie, Jeffrey and Celeste and Laurie have I've patched things up. They're on the,
Hmm.
they're kind of finding their way into being a real family.
Right.
Cut to the next awards show. We see
Right.
that
The next fake daytime
fake.
daytime Emmy award thing. What do they call it? The daytime television awards.
Yes,
It's some vague thing like
yeah,
that.
the
Yeah.
the TV awards
The
award.
TV, the awards for TV.
Yeah. Uh,
Here's a gold statue. It's got like wings on it, and like the arms are pointing up in some vaguely Emmy-like fashion.
it's vague enough that we won't get sued.
Exactly. It's like how in what's the ice skating movie we watched?
Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory. You know how they had the fake Olympics in that, and they were like the international games. It's like that.
Yes, it's the Aldi of awards.
Yes, yeah. It's like the generic thing you get at the supermarket.
Yes,
Like we have the daytime Emmy awards at home. The daytime Emmy awards at home.
it's the Kirkland brand of awards.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
And like Lisa give and I think David wins for producer, and like all three of Celeste and Jeffrey and Lori, they all win their fake daytime Emmy awards for the
yeah,
soap.
exactly, and that's pretty much the end of the show. It's like all three
Yeah.
of them are they're an award-winning family now, and we get like
Hmm.
them all dancing to some samba conga music at the end.
Everyone's in a conga line. Lisa Gibbons is like reporting on it, and then like Lisa Gibbons gets down and she like shimmies and then joins in the conga line, which was kind of fun.
Yes,
So
and that's the movie.
that's the movie.
Overall, I think it still holds up. I think it's still. I mean, with the exception
I mean,
of
with that major caveat of
yes,
wow, that ending doesn't work.
yeah,
Um,
with the exception
yeah,
of that, I would
yeah. Which
say
I mean, it's and like if you as a viewer cannot get past it, I totally get it.
right, exactly.
Totally get it. I that could be a lot to get past.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
I don't yeah, I guess you're right. Like I don't know if do you throw away the entire movie because of that scene or
I mean, I'm a big believer of you have to kind of judge things in the context of their time. And in 1991, I think this was considered all right.
yeah.
From 2024, not so much. But it's an ever changing spectrum of our understanding of stuff. And I'm sure like there's stuff that's being produced this year that where people will look at in 20, 30 years and go like, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah, I do wonder that sometimes. Like I wonder if
Yeah.
like a show that's really popular right now, Game of Thrones or whatever, like will
Right.
20 years from now people will be like, "Oh, that's cringe. I can't
Yeah.
yuck. I can't believe they did that back then." Like I don't know. Like I do think about what we're putting out now what will be unacceptable 10 or 20 years from now.
Yeah. And it's probably something we're not even thinking about right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, "Oh, they're wearing the color purple on this show? Don't they
Yeah.
know
Ooh,
that
yeah.
purple is problematic?" Or I don't know, something weird
and
like that.
and we don't mean to trivialize this at all.
Right. Exactly.
We're that's just how it works. I mean, so yeah, with the major asterisk, uh, that the ending of that is kind of rough from a 2024 perspective.
It is.
But
It is. But
but other than that, yeah, I feel like the movie is cute.
it's a cute
you know,
movie.
it's
Yeah.
it's fallen down the memory hole a bit. I don't think it's like a lost comedy classic. It's not on the level of like Tootsie or anything, but
Yeah. But it seemed like it did well when it came out.
yeah,
Kevin Kline got
it's a fun breezy thing that passes an hour and a half agreeably.
yeah, Kevin Kline got nominated for a Golden Globe for it.
Okay,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's very good in the movie.
Yeah, and I actually think I'm looking up on the Wikipedia page right now.
Uh-huh.
A couple years ago, they announced that there would be a Soapdish television series on Paramount Plus. Like it was in development. I don't know if that's still
Uh-huh.
going on or
Yeah.
not. But
They were trying to do a stage musical adaptation too. It said it was workshopped in 2010 and had a stage reading featuring Kristen Chenoweth, John Stamos, and Jane Krakowski.
ooh,
Um, because I mean, I think Kristen Chenoweth and Jane Krakowski, they've got to be like close to the same age. So maybe it's the Sally Field part, the Kevin Kline part, and the Kathy Moriarty part.
I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
Jersey's own Jane Krakowski being in the
Right.
Kathy Moriarty part. She could do that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I don't see either one of them playing the Elizabeth Shue part. So
No, you'd have to get like a a young ingenue
Yeah,
to
yeah.
fill
So,
those shoes.
I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, or maybe you're doing something completely different and with new characters or something like that. Who knows?
Maybe,
Who knows?
maybe.
Um, and like on the television show, it says Whoopi Goldberg was going to reprise her role as Rose Schwartz. So
Oh wow!
that's interesting.
All right.
Um, there's let's see, there's some more trivia about this on IMDb. I told you about Kevin Kline having to pull out a hook. It also says here Burt Reynolds turned down the lead role. I'm
Oh,
assuming that means Kevin Kline because his then wife Lonnie Anderson told him that the whole of Hollywood would laugh at her, as Reynolds and Sally Field once had a very publicized love affair.
wait, what?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, right, right, right.
they were co-stars in the Smokey and the Bandit
I,
movies.
I'm so sorry. In my mind, I thought you were saying Lonnie Anderson and Sally Field had a love affair. I was like, wait,
No,
what?
no, Burt Reynolds and Sally Field.
Yes, that I knew. That makes sense.
They were a thing in like around 1980 or so, right before he married Lonnie Anderson. So
Yeah,
like,
but
okay,
I mean,
I could kind of see Burt Reynolds in that role.
Yeah, but
I'm glad it was Kevin Kline.
yeah, I think Kevin Kline did a. I mean, Burt Reynolds was a fantastic actor, but I think Kevin Kline did more with it.
Right.
I think he was able to keep it sort of, light. I think Burt Reynolds is a little bit more heavier. He's not really. He hasn't done that many comedies.
Kevin Kline has the right sort of light touch for this role.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. But
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds had more of a heavier gravitas. And like Burt Reynolds didn't do many comedies except for the Smoking the Bandit. All right, well he did Smoking the Bandit, but like he's kind of more known for like the more rugged, like more rugged roles, I guess. If that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, I think I saw that Sigourney Weaver was also turned down the role for Celeste as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and apparently she regretted that because she's worked with Kevin Kline several times since then, and she's like, I could have worked with him sooner. So, and let's see, Kathy Moriarty, who I met just a couple weeks ago at the Garden State Comic Fest in Morristown, New Jersey, she said this was her favorite performance. And yeah, when I spoke to her a couple weeks ago briefly, I said, "Oh, we're going to cover this movie on the podcast," and she said, "Oh yeah, that's a favorite. I had a lot of fun on that."
Yay!
And Kathy Moriarty was cast at the 11th hour after Gina Davis withdrew from the film to appear in Thelma and Louise.
Oh, interesting.
Moriarty has said she is eternally grateful to Davis for this. So
interesting.
Yeah,
Gina Davis in that role. I could see it. I could see it.
I could see it. Because Gina Davis, she is I think 6 foot tall or close to it. So I could see why you would think of her for this role.
She's a tall glass of water.
Yeah, yeah. And Gina Davis is, very funny, so I could certainly see her playing this. And another Tootsie connection.
There it is.
Yeah,
all roads lead back to Tootsie.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Let's see. It says Sally Field was hesitant about Herbert Ross executive producing the film because she said he was a nightmare to work with on Steel Magnolias.
Oh, yikes.
Eventually, a contract agreement was made that at any time if Field felt uncomfortable around Ross, she could have him fired. Ross mostly took on the producer role to apologize to Field for his behavior on their previous collaboration. Field agreed to her contract, but both of them got along well this time around and both stayed on as star and executive producer, respectively.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Somebody realizing that they were a dick and they apologized.
Yeah, I have no idea what went down on Steel Magnolias. I'm going to have to go to the Steel Magnolias IMDb page to figure that out, I guess. But
wow, all right, well, that's cool. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a happy Hollywood story you don't hear too often.
It's nice that some people are really like, yeah, I was a jerk. I want to make up for that. That's nice. It's like adult.
Yeah, like grown-ups. Go figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, that's Soapdish. That's Soapdish. It's cute. I don't think it's a lost comedy classic, but it's fun.
Yeah, it still has a lot of fun parts to it. Ending withstanding, there's still a lot of good kind of fun parts here, like good performances.
Yeah, it's a lot of great actors working at the top of their game. I mean, Sally Field's really good. Kevin Kline is amazing. I thought Robert Downey Jr. is great. Elizabeth Shue was good. Whoopi Goldberg, I think, was wonderful. Terry Hatcher shows why she's an up-and-comer. Kathy Moriarty was good.
Yeah, it's solid.
Gary Marshall, Kathy Najimy. I mean, tons of great people in this. Carrie Fisher.
Yes. It's good stuff.
I wish they gave Carrie Fisher a little more to do. She needed a subplot or something.
That I will agree with you. They need. I mean, maybe they had more and they just cut it. But yeah, she was. It feels like they could have just had anybody in there. But
yeah.
Like if you're gonna have weird. Carrie Fisher, use Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And that's our episode, guys. Thanks again for listening. As always, to the podcast. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, because we refuse to call it X, at SNL Nerds Show. You can donate to our Patreon at Non-Productive.com. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Darren Credible. That's DARIN Credible.
And after you follow Darren on the social media, you may as well follow me too. I'm at Trumbull Comic, TRUMBULL, and the word comic. That's on Twitter and on the Instagram, and I'm on a few other places too. Let's make a little scavenger hunt. And you can find me.
Yeah.
And you can follow the show at SNL Nerds Show. And as you may have noticed, you might have noticed as you start listening to this episode, this is episode 293 of the podcast. So we're coming up on our 300th episode.
Ooh.
And if you have, we've got some plans in the works for the 300th episode. We're not entirely certain what it's going to be yet, but we're working on making something big for it. If you have a suggestion, if there's somebody you'd like us to try and get on the podcast, let us know, and we will do our very best to make that happen.
Yes.
So that would be fun. But interestingly, a friend of ours, Michael Burlew, he said that this episode is our unofficial 300th episode.
Yay! So,
I don't agree with his reasoning because he said this on our Facebook page this week, on the SNL Nerds Facebook page. And you can follow us on Facebook as well.
Yes, absolutely.
But what Michael did was he counted up all of our bonus episodes. He says, you got this bonus episode with Michael Coton and John Abood on A Futile and Stupid Gesture. You've got this bonus episode with writer Dave Sears on The King of Staten Island. You did a bonus episode with SNL writer Hugh Fink. You did a bonus episode on 1941, The Illustrated Story with Steve Bissette. You did a bonus episode on For Mad Men Only and The Suicide Squad with John Ostrander and Bob Greenberger. You did a bonus episode where you covered the movies Neighbors and Old Boyfriends. That was from the Fade Out podcast with our friend Rob Kelly. You did a bonus episode where Darren talked about the movie Barbie. And we did a bonus episode on Please Don't Destroy the Treasure of Foggy Mountain, he says. And also you skipped an episode number earlier. Plus, the show, and Darren 300, John skipped one episode. And that was the episode when we covered the movie Dragnet.
Yes, absolutely.
So...
Wow.
So I had to address all these concerns.
Yes, the people need to hear this. People want to hear this.
We put the records. I was like, okay, well, first off, the bonus episodes they're just that. They're bonus episodes. They don't fit into visual episode count. Like usually when we do a bonus episode, it's just because of like a timing thing, or we want to cover a particular topic that ties in with something we recently did on the podcast. So. So we usually are like, okay, let's do it as a bonus episode. We'll record 2 episodes this week. And that's how that usually works.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know with the Please Don't Destroy movie, it was just like, it kind of came to streaming right in the middle of at a chunk of SNL doing new episodes. So we were like, okay, we could either wait a month to cover this, or we'll just do it as a bonus episode. And I think we had that one as a Patreon exclusive for a bit.
Yeah, because it came out like around November, I want to say. And
something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And yeah, we do have one a missing episode. If you look in our archives, you will see that there is no episode 122 of the SNL Nerds podcast. And that was the week John Krasinski hosted. And that was just, we've explained this before, but I don't think we've explained it in a while. That was just because we did record that episode, but we had audio problems, and the audio turned out so bad it could not be rescued, not even by our super producer Frank Kablawi.
Yeah, that was, that was something else.
Yeah, and then we did not have time to re-record the entire episode all over again, so we were just like, that's going to be the lost episode.
Yeah.
Because we also had our friend John Schneider on as a guest that week. And so, like, do we re-record the episode without him? Do we try to get him back? It was a whole thing.
Yeah, like I remember us trying to record that episode and just slowly losing my mind over the fact that just like so many, like everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong.
It crashed a few times as we were recording it, didn't it?
It did. It crashed like multiple times, and just the mics weren't right, and I was just slowly having a meltdown. I tried to I tried to be the cool, calm, collected one, but I was just
especially when you have a guest, you want to try and keep it together, and you want to keep your energy up, but when you have too many technical foul ups like that, it really does kind of get you down and it drains your energy.
I almost went full Bill O'Reilly. I really was just like about to flip a table and be
this fucking thing sucks. So depending on how you count, this was our 300th episode, in which case, happy anniversary. But I'm still at 299, so I'll be celebrating more next week. Or honestly, I'm going to celebrate when it's the actual number 300 episode.
Yes, the big 300. But we're getting there. Yeah. We're going to get there. But
we're close. We're only like 7 weeks away now.
Right,
so
we're close. But so on the way to the big 300, John, what are we going to do for next week's episode?
What are we going to do next week? Well, I mean, it's the fun thing about the summer is we can just do whatever the heck we want.
Yeah,
we can cover movies. We can interview people. We can do all sorts of stuff. So we just go wherever our fancy takes us. And so we decided to do a movie starring an SNL starring I think a few SNL alums that we haven't covered before. What are we going to do, Darren?
We're going to what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You reveal it.
All right. Boom. We're doing this little mockumentary comedy film from 1996 called Waiting for Guffman.
Waiting for Guffman, starring and directed by Mr. Christopher Guest, who was a regular on the show around 1984-ish, 1985-ish, something like that.
Yeah, that's about right. Written by Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy, starring Eugene Levy, and Catherine O'Hara and Parker Posey. Fred Willard, the great Fred Willard, is in this motherfucker.
Yeah. This was kind of the start of Christopher Guest's whole run of cool improv films. So
yes, the great Bob Balaban, the great Brian Doyle Murray, Dave Cross.
I don't think Michael McKean's in this one, is he?
No, he is not.
I think he joined later.
Yes, he joined later. Got a little David Cross and Bob Odenkirk up in this film too.
Oh, geez, I'd forgotten they were in it. I haven't seen Waiting for Guffman in a few years.
It's been a minute,
so I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, this should be a hoot. This is the one that kind of. I know that. Everybody says like Spinal Tap was the one that really started the Christopher Guest mockumentaries, but then, I think for a while he didn't really do anything. But then this film came out.
But yeah, this is a number of years after Spinal Tap, and this is Christopher Guest doing his own thing. So yes. I think. It's Spinal Tap adjacent, I would say.
Yeah, Spinal Tap adjacent. And we covered Mighty Wind. So yeah, we figured let's do Waiting for Guffman.
Yeah, we haven't done Best in Show yet. We'll get to Best in Show eventually.
We'll get there. Hold your horses, folks.
We'll get there. We got to space these things out.
Exactly.
We don't want to burn out on any one SNL cast member. So we got to mix these things up.
Yeah,
just variety, spice of life.
Yes, spicy.
Yeah. So, one more thing that I want to plug before we sign off. I just recently guest starred on my friend Ryan Daly's podcast, Cheers Cast. Once again, I've been on this show a lot, probably like over a dozen times at this point, and I'm talking about an episode of Cheers from I think right around the same time, 1991. Called Sisterly Love, which is where they bring in Marsha Cross from Melrose Place as Rebecca Howe's sister. And I had a lot of fun talking about that. It's one of my favorite episodes of Cheers. So go check out Cheers Cast on the Fire and Water Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. So, all right. And I think that's about it for this week. So we will see you next week for Waiting for Guffman. But until then... Nerds out!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.